Joining me now is Josef Gregory Mahoney. He is a professor of politics and international relations at East China Normal University in Shanghai. Thank you very much for your time there, Joseph. Now, how would you describe economic relations between the Chinese mainland and Taiwan?
Well, the fact of the matter is it's difficult to separate the economic and the political at this point because they're so intertwined. And, generally people try to describe cross-strait relations and likewise China-U.S. relations in simple ways. On the one hand, we know there are serious challenges presently. The Biden administration repeatedly has used Taiwan to provoke Beijing, saying one thing then another, but overall consistently undermining strategic ambiguity and the U.S. position on the one-child policy, which is the cornerstone of China-U.S. relations. Now, we are approaching a fifth major sale of military equipment to Taiwan since Biden took office, and we know he's conceded the presence of U.S. troops on the island, along with other efforts to build China containment blocks in Asia. And we know there are some in Taipei who've welcomed this trend in relations under Biden and before him Trump. And we know that House Speaker Pelosi is planning to visit Taipei, which Beijing strongly condemns, in so much as Beijing takes seriously her position as America's third highest ranking constitutional officer, even if a very large percentage of Americans themselves are not very fond of her, and the fact that she's likely to lose her position this fall. But there's a significant population in Taiwan that also wants to avoid increasing frictions. Research indicates almost 65% don't believe a war will happen, although this looming threat is a key talking point of some U.S. and Taiwanese leaders. We know that Taiwan has long had the advantage of playing both sides economically, and over the years, Taiwanese businesses have received a very favorable treatment on the mainland, to the point that a significant, if not critical percentage of Taipei's economic well-being depends on good economic ties with Beijing. And there are a lot of Taiwanese working on the mainland. I know many in Shanghai living good lives who have no interest in the larger politics. And there are Taiwanese businesses who need good ties, who resist U.S. pressure to decouple, as we've seen with chip makers and others. So this is to say there's already a large amount of economic integration between Taiwan and the mainland. And from a Marxist point of view, by the way, this is the real starting point of unification, given the principle that the economic base determines the superstructure.
That we've just had nearly a 3-year pandemic, it's still ongoing, and we have these, political complications surrounding, the Taiwan Strait. How is that impacting the many companies that are established in Taiwan and the relationship between the two?
Well, we know that Biden is trying to disrupt this economic relationship between the mainland and Taiwan by pursuing a bilateral trade deal with Taiwan to encourage decoupling. And there are those in Taipei who are trying to pursue similar tactics with Europe. Biden was forced to exclude Taiwan from his Indo-Pacific economic framework that he announced in Tokyo in May due to concerns from other Asian countries that were joining the initiative but wanted to avoid provoking China. So he's pursuing this bilateral deal instead. In fact, we've had the COVID problem, but we're also at a moment when China's economy is already in transition, where it's matured to the point that some international companies some international companies found attractive, for example, low-cost labor, is no longer as competitive as one finds in less developed countries. So it's normal at this point, a normal market transition for some firms to move elsewhere, and that's what we're going to see. But of course, the COVID restrictions have made it very difficult, as your lead-in noted, for us to have those face-to-face connections, to have the real exchanges that are so necessary for not only goodwill, but for business. And hopefully those will return at some point in the near future.
All right, Joseph, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for your time. Josef Gregory Mahoney for us there.